Hi everyone, this is Motion Designing Blender and I will share you my ideas, tools, tips and tricks. I am Maisam Hosaini from GCubee. Okay, at the end of this video, I will set up this kind of node graph and we can animate growing of the flower around this arc. But don't worry, it is so easy and I try to explain very clearly and understandable. Okay, let me start with a new fresh Blender project. I gonna go to Geometry Nodes workspace and select my cube and add new geometry by clicking new on this panel. First, I need to make my curve shape. Let me add quadrilateral curve from here. Very difficult name to hear. And I need to set cyclic, set spline cyclic to here. If I enable cyclic, my spline is closed. If I disable cyclic, my spline is open. Let me set it here. And now I can connect these two parameters to group input to control it by modifier panel directly in here. Now I need to rotate and standing up my curve. Shift A, transform geometry, and I rotate Y value to 19 and I separate my translation by combine X, Y, Z, and I can change Z position separately by this node. Add math node and set it as multiply or divide, I need divide, sorry, and set width to first parameter and divide it by 2 and then set value to Z. Now I can change my parameters, any of my parameters as I wish, and my curve is standing up here. Okay, let me make some room here. I need to fillet curve corners to make nice arc. Shift A, search fillet curve. I need to enable limit radius and set mode to poly and set my radius as I wish and set the count or fillet segment to about 32. Okay, I have nice arc here. Now I need a profile to shape my arc. I can use, for example, curve. I'm going to primitives and add a star node to here and set curve to mesh node here and add my star node as profile curve. Don't worry, I need to some modifying for this star node. First, I add for this, for example, 20 and set inner radius to 0.1 and outer radius to 0.15. Okay, but some modifying needed here. I need to fillet these sharp edges. Shift A, fillet, and set curve to curve and set this one here. Enable limit and set it to poly. I can add count as 12 and it's good, but I have an issue here. I have some artifact here and let me show you how to fix this. I can resample my base curve as resample curve and it's gone. Let me set it to, for example, 128 segment for this arc. Now I want to rotate this star profile along the base curve, base arc curve. I can add search for tilt, set curve tilt and add it here. As you see, if I change the radius, profile is rotated along the curve, but I need to twist it along this curve. I can add a spline parameters for parameter and set factor as tilt. It's rotated, but I need to add more rotation for this. I can add another math node and set factor to value 1, result for tilt, and set the mode to multiply and add more rotation to my profile. Let me set it to 15 and it's good. Let me change these parameters to better look. 2 for width is okay, and 1.2 for height. I think it is good. Okay, let me manage my nodes here. Now I need distribute some points on, scatter some points on my shape to replace it by the flower shape. I need to add distribute point on face to here. For show you base mesh, I can join geometry here and join distributed point with my base shape. As you see, I scatter some point on my base mesh. Let me set it to 100. It is good. And now I need to replace these points by my flower. I have made this flower shape very simple, and you can make it by any skill. It is so simple and easy to make. And let me copy this one. Control C to copy it. And I'm going back here. Control V here. And my flower is in this project. Let me change cube name to arc. And now drag my flower to my geometry node graph. Now I can add another node, instance on points node here, and set flower geometry to instance. As you see, it's scattered on arc surface and replace distributed points, but I need to set it to relative. But as you see, it's not rotated correctly on the surface. How you can fix it? You can connect rotation socket of distributed point on face to rotation socket of instance on point, and it is fixed. But I need to change the scale of this scattered object by some random value to make some of them bigger and some of them smaller. For this reason, I can add noise texture to here. Let me visualize what happened when I add noise to this scale. For visualize this process, I need Shift A viewer node to here. My base mesh as geometry and factor as value. Let me hide the flower and disable the normalize. As you see, my noise is placed on my base mesh, but it don't place correctly, and because of I need UV of this mesh to control noise texture. How can I make this? In my previous video, I have shown you how you can make UV for any kind of curve mesh, but I show you again here. Shift A, store name. I add store name attribute to here first for my main curve. Store name here. I add an store name node here and name it U and control it by spline parameter. And I set factor as value. Now I have U parameter for my UV mapping, and let me set this here to make some room, and exactly the same process. Shift D, copy this one and set curve as geometry and geometry as profile curve to have it here. And now I can add a fresh spline parameter here and set factor to value, or using this one that placed here. Control X to delete this one and set this to V. Now I have U and V parameters for my UV mapping to control this noise texture. Let me separate vector by combine XYZ. You can type it and you can select it from here and add two node name attribute, one for U. As you click here, you can find U and V here, or you can type it U and Shift D for V and set U as X and V as Y. Now you can see this noise texture is placed correctly along my shape. Black points means 0 and white points means 1. And I can control my scatter flower object by 0 and 1 for scale. But let me some modify here. Shift A and add color ramp to here and set it here and some modifying here to have sharper pattern. And let me change these parameters. I can add this to 40 to control it by W for changing rolling of the noise texture, and set this one to 10, I don't know, 9, and set it to 0.75. I think it is good. And now I can control X to delete your node, and now I can add the color to scale of this object. Wow, what happened? First, let me change this parameter, distributed point. Let me add some point here, more and more. For example, 1000 or 1200. Okay, it's not bad, but as you see, some flowers have 0 scale and some other is more than 1 scale because of I disable this normalize, but you can control it by another node, range, map range node. I can add the color to map range and add the result to a scale. And now let me show you how you can control it. It is map that pattern from 0 black point to 1 white point to another parameter. I can set 2 minimum to 0.1, and as you see, 0 scaled flower is growing up and 2 max as 0.35. It is not bad, but I can change it a little bit up. It's depend on you how you can control this, and I can change this color ramp a little bit to control this one, or I can some modifying for these parameters to control better scatter of my flower on my shape. It's good enough, I think. Now I need to control growing of the flower by another map. First, let me add scale instance node. Shift A, search scale instance node to here. By this, you can control the scale of your instances object as you wish. Let me show you. You can control it by here, but it's control scale instances object by its current scale, and I can control it by another map. Shift A, add named attribute here. I need to grow my flower from here along my shape to here. Now I can use U attribute to control this. Let me show you what happened here. First, add viewer base geometry for geometry and set attribute to value. As you see, it's from 0 black to 1. I can make my map by this node. Shift A, add color ramp here and some modify. For this, I can change it to here. Okay, it is controlled the fall off of my effect, my growing effect. And now I can control moving my map by adding another matte node. Shift A, math here and set it to here and set this one to here, and as you see you can control it by this one. Okay, my map is moving and it's control flower growing. Let me set the color for the scale and mute this for this time, and as you see my flower is growing up to here as my map. Okay, I can modify my map by some another node. Let me show you what happened here, and again I can visible this viewer node. First I need to add map range to flip my map 0 to 1, change to 1 to 0. As you see my map is flipped, and then math here and set it to subtract, and as you see it is inverted map. Now I can mix this two map by mix color. Shift A, mix color to here, color 1 to A and color B, or map 1 to A socket and map B to B socket, and set the mode to multiply and set the factor to 1. I can disable this clamp factor, and now I can show you what happened here. As you see I can start my growing and I can collapse it by this parameter. Cool. Delete this one and let me show you what happened to my object. As you see it's going up and it's collapsed and scaled down from the start point. It is done. I have made my shape and modifier, but you can set some parameter to control it directly in modifier panel. Okay, let me set my last parameter, Shift D, and set density to here, and I have all my useful parameters. Now let me set material for my object. First we need two material, one for base shape, arc shape, and one for flowers. Let me name it arc and another new flowers. Okay, I need to add a two node, set material node, set material for the base shape, Shift D, and another for instance flowers. Set it to flower and set it to arc, and I'm gonna go back to layout and set timeline panel to shader editor and set my viewport to rendering and set render engine to cycles, device as GPU, maximum viewport sample to 32, and set denoising on. And now I'm going back to here and set the arc. I wanna set material for my arc shape. I have downloaded this material from Polyheaven, TextureHeaven, and I wanna set this for my arc shape. Let me import textures, one for diffuse or base color, one for displacement, and one for roughness. Let me set the color of diffuse to base color. As you see, it have not a correct UV. We need to make my UV. Shift A, attribute, Shift D, copy it, and U and V, same attribute that I have made in geometry nodes, and set it to combine XYZ, U for X and U factor for X, and V factor for Y. And now I can set my UV to this object. You can set mapping node, Shift A, mapping node to here to scale it up or down. And now I connect my UV to each of my texture and set roughness to roughness. and set normal displacement to, I need to add bump map and set color to height and normal to normal, and set the strength to 0.1. It is good. I'm going back here and select flowers, and now we can add noise texture to here. Control click with enabling node wrangler add-on on here to see what happened here, and add Shift A object info and set location as node texture vector, and add another node color ramp to here, and set interpolation to constant and make it something like this. Okay, and change the color to something like this, and this one to like this. And now I'm connecting color to base color of principal BSDF and BSDF output to material output surface. It is done. At the end, you just need to modify any parameters of this geometry nodes for shape your arc, and you can keyframe it. As you see, you can modify anything: profile inner, profile outer, to minimum for minimum size, to maximum for maximum size, start value, end value for trimming the flower, density value to count, and anything you want. For the last thing, I wanna show you something cool. You can replace your main curve with any other curves as you wish. For example, let me show you. Shift A, going to curve. If you don't have this kind of curve in your curve menu, add curve menu, you need to go to edit preferences, and here you can search extra object. You can enable add curve extra object, and I can add, for example, curve spiral arch median, and I can set height for this and set for example turn to 3 and height a little bit down, and radius to down, and radius grows to up. It is cool. And tap to back to object mode, and I'm going to my arc object, and I'm drag spiral object here, and I can set geometry as geometry after these nodes. That makes my arc, and as you see, you have a beautiful spiral filled by flower. Please like this video if it was helpful, and subscribe my channel if you want to find more about motion design in Blender.